All right, welcome back to Fantasy Files 1054. We're about to get into our top 24 running back rankings. The last ranking video, which is a wide receiver ranking video, did very well. So I appreciate all the support out there. And I want to let you guys in on where we're headed with the channel. We've been making some improvements as we go. So, one thing we're going to try and do here, we're going to up the ante a little bit. If you go to the Jalen Hurts thumbnail video, which was I think it was right after a wide receiver ranking video, and you go and get that video 30 likes, we will enter a $250 big dog fantasy football underdog fantasy draft. So if you want to see that, be sure to go over there, get that video to 30 likes, and we will hop into one of those before the season gets started. Once the season does get started, we are going to transfer our live streams over to a DFS style live stream, and we'll be building teams every week for tournaments on either DraftKings or FanDuel. Haven't decided which one yet. I've done FanDuel in the past, but I heard that DraftKings is a little bit better. So we'll iron that out, and then maybe we'll do I was thinking of a 3x3 style video to do our top 3 waiver wire ads, but that's still in the works, and we're still thinking about it. So for our prepared videos, drop any suggestions you have in the comments below of what you'd like to see, but our live streams are pretty locked in to be the DFS style, so we can have a little bit of fun and be some degenerates and gamble every single week live here on Fantasy Files 1054. So hopping into this video, we've been trying to work our time down for these videos. So our quarterback and tight end ranking videos were 1 hour a piece. We got the last one down to 30 minutes. It did really well. So we're going to try to get this one done in 20 minutes, which means we're not going to be able to give in-depth analysis on most of these guys, if any. So if you want to ask any questions or have any comments, throw them down below. Like the video, and go ahead and subscribe so you can get all of our content up to date as we release it and as we're live. Since we do live stream, you can hop into the live stream and either get into the same tournaments with us or just hop in to hang out. We always love that. So again, thank you for the support, and let's hop right into this ranking video. So starting off, no surprises. There has been some cases made between the two players going in the S tier, but we are going to stick with our guy, Jonathan Taylor. Now, he's a younger back. He's going into a better offense this year with Matt Ryan leading them. They have some help at the wide receiver position this year. There has been some reports that Nyheim Hines is going to be heavily involved, but when you have the number one running back overall, I don't think you fade him, especially when he's very young and ready to go. He's only missed one game to a COVID close contact call. He's very stout, very sturdy, fast, can catch the ball. He proved everything he could do last year, so we're going to keep him at the number one position. Number two, which is the only other player you can make the case for being in the number one position, but we have him at 2, is Christian McCaffrey. I think in past, you can obviously see what he's done and he's shown us his ceiling. However, I think that his ceiling has passed. I think that time is gone. He's getting a little bit older, and even if we don't take age or injury into consideration, I think that he is going to have more of a split role than he ever has before because of the past 2 years and missing so much time. So we're not assuming that he's going to get injured this year, but because of the past 2 years and what has already happened, I think that they are a little bit more careful heading into this year. So I think that lowers the ceiling just a little bit, keeping Jonathan Taylor at number 1, but Christian McCaffrey, obviously still a good choice for your running back 1, and I understand the case if you want to put him over Jonathan Taylor. Moving down to the A tier, this may come to a little bit of a surprise, but we're going to have Dalvin Cook as our number 3 running back overall. This is because he's going into a year where he actually is in a completely different offense, and it's actually a pass-heavier offense, which I do like. Dalvin Cook is a player that misses a little bit of time. He misses a few games every single year, and he does catch the ball out of the backfield. So I actually think that this new offense is going to benefit Dalvin Cook staying healthy and getting involved in the passing game a little bit more. Now, I want to say right now, while we're still at the beginning of the video, this is rankings for a half PPR, but mostly a PPR league. So we are favoring that receiving workload a little bit heavier than if you were in a standard league or a half PPR league. So keep that in mind, but I do think Dalvin Cook actually benefits from this new offense that he's going into. I think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a lot more of a legitimate team than they have been in the past, and Dalvin Cook will be a beneficiary of that. Right behind Dalvin Cook, we have Austin Eckler. He came in as the number 2 running back last year in 2021, and the reason I dropped him down to number 4 is because his touchdown efficiency rate last year was ridiculous. He has Isaiah Spiller coming in, he's shown that he's better than both of the backups of last year, so he has a little bit more competition at the goal line, and he is a smaller guy, so he still gets all the passing work, but I don't know if he forfeits some of that goal line work to Isaiah Spiller or Joshua Kelly, so for those reasons, we're knocking him down to the 4th overall running back position, and he is more than capable of exceeding those expectations. However, we are predicting that he takes a slight step back in the touchdown efficiency range. Next up, Joe Mixon. He is in a very good offense, Super Bowl contending team for this upcoming year. His offensive line actually went from one of the worst to one of the best this offseason. So for all those reasons, we're going to have Joe Mixon a lot higher on this list than usual. Now, I will say last year he did finish as the 4th running back overall, which is actually kind of a surprise to me. I didn't realize he finished that high last year. So that's another reason that we're actually having him take a step back from last year, surprisingly enough. So for those reasons, we have him at number 5, and I think that he can produce based off of the productivity of his offense and the improvements at his offensive line. Right behind Joe Mixon, we have old man Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry started off last year super hot. He came in, was showing us why he was the best running back in the league. He got injured. He is 28 years old this upcoming season. So there is a little bit of room for concern there, which is actually not why I have him bumped down a little bit further than what some of you may have him ranked. I have him bumped down a little bit because A.J. Brown left, actually. I think that makes the productivity of the Tennessee Titans a little bit lower. They have a couple less red zone trips than they're used to, and Derrick Henry will take that slight step back in productivity because of the overall offensive play rather than his age itself. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm honestly kind of feeling good about his health just because he got his injury out of the way. He is an anomaly. He's a massive human being, and he will stay healthy this year, in my opinion, but I do think he takes a slight step back. Next up, Alvin Kamara. Now, we have him a lot lower than we've had him in the past, even with the assumption that he is going to be playing for this entire season, and that is because we did have Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry come into the offense last year. And so I think with that, his target share is going to be a little bit lower than what we're used to seeing. So I think that some of the points get knocked off of his overall fantasy point production throughout the entire year. But he's still an elite back. He's still in a very good offense, and he is going to produce at a top-tier level. Right behind him is Najee Harris. Najee Harris is a player that I haven't been drafting a whole lot in a best ball league format, but come redraft league format, I'm going to actually draft him a bunch. And the reason for that differentiation is because I don't think that Najee Harris has a massive ceiling because I think that he does not have the top speed to break off massive plays. He's in a worse offense than he was in last year, but he is the only running back in the Steelers' backfield. The Steelers are always going to find a way to be playoff contenders, and he is going to kill the productivity by volume and volume alone. So for all those reasons, I think that his floor is very high and his ceiling is a little bit more capped than the other players in this tier, which is why he's the last player in the A tier. However, I do think in redraft leagues, he's a player that you can count on getting you 20 points every single week, which makes him very enticing when we're talking about the redraft PPR format. Moving on to the B tier, first player is going to be Saquon Barkley. And the thing about Saquon Barkley is that he was one of the best college athletes of all time. So we have quite a high ceiling when it comes to this player. And although he's on a bad offense, he's one of those players that can get it done all over the field at the wide receiver and running back position. He has lined up in slot a little bit this offseason, and we can plan to see him there again during the season a little bit. So he will be involved all over the field, has that upside, so he will be our first player in the B tier. Right behind him is pretty similar in the sense that he is capable of being the number one running back overall, and this is Javonte Williams. I think both Saquon and Javonte could be the number one running back overall in the sense that their skill set allows them to have that ceiling. Although Saquon Barkley is handcuffed by his injury history, and Javonte Williams is handcuffed by Melvin Gordon. For whatever reason, I have a feeling that Melvin Gordon will be faded by the end of the year. So come the end of the year, when playoff time is happening, I think Javonte Williams is a player that could finish the season almost like a Rashad Penny, in the sense that he could be a top 5 running back in the last 7 weeks of the year, which is when you really need him, especially for a best ball league and in your redrafts. If you can get to that point to contend for a championship, Javonte Williams could be your league winner. Now, right behind Javonte Williams, we're going to have DeAndre Swift. This is a player that's going to be a lot more enticing in a PPR or half PPR league. He is a receiving back. Now, he does have Jamal Williams in the backfield as a handcuff, which may take away some goal line opportunities. However, I'm not too worried about that. I think the skill set is going to demand quite a few targets and touches out of the Lions' backfield, and I think the Lions are going to be a lot better this year than they have in the past. So I think that DeAndre Swift is capable of having quite a high ceiling here, although he does have some competition, which will leave him as a third player in our B tier. Moving on is going to be Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift are actually very similar in a lot of ways. They're pretty much the running back receiver only. They are going to have goal line touches vultured. However, the difference here, Aaron Jones is going to benefit from Devontae Adams leaving and will pick up some of those targets in his offense, and he will be in a little bit better of an offense than DeAndre Swift. However, I think that A.J. Dillon is a lot better of a handcuff running back than Jamal Williams, which is why we have DeAndre Swift slightly above Aaron Jones. However, I could understand the case for either. Moving on to the C tier is going to be Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is kind of the complete opposite of DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones. He's not involved in the receiving game at all. He's one of the best runners in the entire league, and he has proven that for years and years and years. Since Kareem Hunt will be coming back this year, I don't think he gets traded, and Deshaun Watson will be suspended for 11 games this upcoming season. That does bring down the ceiling of the overall offense for those first 11 games. Now, I will say that once you get into the championship or in the playoffs of your respective league, Nick Chubb is going to have potential league winning upside, because when Deshaun Watson starts to play for the Cleveland Browns, he is going to make that offense 10 times better than what they're going to be with Jacoby Brissett, which means more red zone trips, which means Nick Chubb will have more goal line opportunities and a higher touchdown efficiency rating. Right behind Nick Chubb, we're going to have Leonard Fournette. Now, Leonard Fournette came into camp looking really bad this year. We have a lot of issues developing at the offensive line for the Buccaneers. We have Tom Brady out of camp, not practicing. So a lot of red flags in the Buccaneers offense, including Rachaad White, which is the best receiving back of the last draft class, the 2022 draft class that just occurred. So he is going to have a little bit of competition in the receiving game out of the backfield. So we did bump him down a little bit more than what we actually started the offseason at as far as his rankings go. But we do still like the overall offense, assuming that Tom Brady comes back and gives Leonard Fournette those opportunities he had last year. Now, we got to remember that Leonard Fournette did finish as a 6th overall running back on the year last year. So we're gonna give him the respect of putting him right behind Nick Chubb in the C tier. Right behind him is going to be James Conner, also a player that finished very high last year, being at the number 5 running back overall. Surprised everyone, and both of these players were actually league winners of last year. Although you can see that we do not think that they're going to repeat what they did last year. We're getting a lot of good reports on Eno Benjamin in the Cardinals offense. I think that the touchdown efficiency of James Conner last year is unsustainable, and he takes a slight step back, almost like an Austin Eckler, and how we were talking about his touchdown efficiency earlier on in the video. So James Conner is still in a really good offense. He's still going to get plenty of opportunities, but I don't think it will be a 3-down workhorse load, especially with his injury past. And I think that his touchdown efficiency rating takes a slight step back, which is why we have him as a 3rd player in the C tier. Now, the last player in the C tier, I am super, super reluctant to put him here. And I'm putting him here because of what has happened to his team in the offseason, what has happened to his team in training camp. And I think that this player is going to be interchangeable for his backup based off of overall pace of play and efficiency for his offense and his team overall. And this is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. Now, Ezekiel Elliott has been getting worse and worse ever since his rookie year, steady and slowly but surely. So he's been getting really bad. I think Tony Pollard's actually the better running back at this point in Ezekiel Elliott's career. So I actually like Tony Pollard a lot more in drafts than I do Zeke, and I really rarely draft Zeke because I think it's highly possible he gets faded or gets injured more seriously this year. So I don't want to predict the injury, but he has over 1,500 carries, which is when a lot of these running backs start falling off as far as health goes. And I think that Tony Pollard is still young and explosive, so I've been taking him, especially because you can get him so much later in drafts than where you grab Zeke. But if Zeke stays healthy and he still gets the opportunity in the Cowboys' high pace of play offense, they're going to be good. And they just lost Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup will be out for the beginning of the year. They're going to be looking for all the talent on the offense they can get. So we're going to have to throw Ezekiel Elliott as the last player in the C tier. First player in the D tier is going to be our first rookie prospect, and that's going to be Breece Hall. He's a prospect that really checks all the boxes you could possibly ask for when looking at a rookie. The only problem here is that he has Michael Carter as a handcuff running back in the receiving game. And, of course, he's on the Jets without Zach Wilson as well. So, that all being said, that is why we're going to have Breece Hall as the first player in the D tier. Right behind Breece Hall, we're going to have J.K. Dobbins. Now, J.K. Dobbins is on an offense that rushes the football over and over and over and over again. They rush the ball more than any other team in the league when Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins are healthy. So, even though he's in a committee running back, or even though he's in a committee backfield with now Mike Davis, soon to be Gus Edwards, we're not worried about it because of how many opportunities that offense presents their running backs to score on a weekly basis. And J.K. Dobbins was an amazing prospect out of Ohio State, did very well there and did very well in his rookie season, averaging well over 5 yards a carry for his entire season that we saw him. So for all those reasons, we're going to have J.K. Dobbins as the second player in the D tier. Right behind J.K. Dobbins, we're going to have Cam Akers. Cam Akers is a running back that's going to be in a very good offense, a Super Bowl winning offense, if you will. But he's not going to be the only running back in that backfield. He's going to pair the 1A, 1B role with Darrell Henderson, who's also a very good running back when he's healthy. Right behind Cam Akers, we are going to have Travis Etienne. Now, we haven't seen anything from him on a professional football level quite yet, so there is the X factor that him and Breece Hall both have heading into this offseason. So you could be getting them at an extreme value. The only issue here is that, well, there's a few issues. He's on a very bad offense. And James Robinson somehow recovered from his Achilles injury and is going to be ready for week 1. So I think James Robinson gets a lot of the goal line work. Travis Etienne will get a lot of receiving work. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity, especially when we're talking about a full PPR league. But I can't have him higher than the fourth player in the D tier because of James Robinson. James Robinson is a very good and effective running back, so he's going to get plenty of work in that backfield, vulturing a lot of the touchdowns away from Travis Etienne at the goal line when they're within, say, 10 yards of scoring a touchdown. So for those reasons, Travis Etienne is going to be our last player in the D tier. First player in the E tier is going to be Josh Jacobs. Now, this is a player that's been getting faded for the entire offseason based off of him playing in the preseason games against Zamir White. But I'm not worried about Zamir White at all. I think Josh Jacobs is actually in a very good situation. You can get him very late in your drafts, and he is going to be going into a situation where Devontae Adams is coming onto the offense. They're going to have a lot more scoring opportunities on that offense. They're going to be better than what they were last year as a whole, and that's going to give Josh Jacobs plenty of opportunities at the red zone, and that's what he does best is bang the ball in from 5 yards out. So that's why we have Josh Jacobs here in the E tier for that touchdown upside. Right behind Josh Jacobs is going to be David Montgomery. David Montgomery is kind of the opposite. He is a workhorse back. He is a very talented back, but he is on a horrible offense. That being said, since he is on a horrible offense, he is pretty much the second best talent on the entire offense, maybe behind Darnell Mooney, if not ahead. So he's going to get plenty of opportunity, but he will be limited from the offense production as a whole. So that's why we have him as late as we do. But when he is healthy, he is the full 3-down running back of the offense. And from volume alone, This is giving him plenty of upside and a very high floor that you can confidently draft later in your drafts, giving you a good option at running back if you were to go wide receiver heavy early on and draft David Montgomery as your second or third running back. So a very, very respectable player for where you can get him. And I think he is one of my highest drafted players this offseason. Right behind David Montgomery is going to be Elijah Mitchell. Now, Elijah Mitchell has pretty much no work in the receiving game of his offense, and there was a little bit of nerves around the fact that Kyle Shanahan switched up his running back like he switches socks every single day. He had a new running back for the last 5 years, but it's looking like Elijah Mitchell is going to be locked in as the number one running back on a very heavy running offense, especially with Trey Lance coming in. Now, I will say Trey Lance will vulture some of the goal line work from Elijah Mitchell, and I think Elijah Mitchell as a talent can support a better finish than where we have him. With him not being involved in the receiving game and Trey Lance vulturing some goal line touches, that is why we are going to have him as low as we do at the 23rd running back overall. Now, the 24th running back overall was actually very difficult for me. I was bouncing between quite a few guys. Just to list a few names, we have Devin Singletary, we have Cordero Patterson, we have CEH, we have Chase Edmonds, we have A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Miles Sanders. But this player, I think, I went with him because I think it was the scariest pick of them all because we really don't have any history of him producing at this high of a level. But I think with the opportunity and the trajectory that his overall offense is going in and him stepping up into a lead back role, I think that his ceiling is actually a lot higher than the tier we have him in. And if you're brave enough to take him over the running back that he was starting behind last year, you might be in a situation that it pays dividends to you on the season. And that running back is actually going to be Ramondre Stevenson. Now, Ramondre Stevenson can be involved in the running game. He can be involved in the passing game. He had multiple 20-point plus games last year when he was played. Most of the games he did play, he averaged over 5 yards a carry. And his offense is actually headed into a season where they're going to be a lot better than they were previously. Mac Jones has taken a step. They acquired Devontae Parker. They have solid tight ends. And if Ramondre Stevenson steps up into that lead back role on a rush-heavy offense, then this could be a player that goes from, the 40-plus overall finish where he was last year and skyrockets that number up into the 24 spot overall. So, and to be honest with you, I think it's in the range of possibilities that Ramondre Stevenson finishes even higher than where we have him. So, with that all being said, this is our rankings. Take them in. Now, I will say the running backs are a lot more difficult to rank than pretty much any other position because you're working with a dynamic where some have handcuffs, some don't. Sometimes both the handcuffs are very good and could make this top 24 list. But when you're talking about a redraft league specifically, you have got to load up on solid running backs that have high volume workload. So I think it's the best strategy unless you get crazy values on really good wide receivers. I think it is a really good idea to load up on running backs because one tip that I will throw out there for you to use, if you load up on running backs, even if they're not S through B tier, even if they're in the C to E range, if you load up on 2, 3, 4 of these guys and you sit on them, I guarantee you that running backs are going to get injured throughout the year. And if you didn't get a high-level wide receiver early in the draft, you will be able to trade for one halfway through the season. So even if you grab these running backs as trade currency, I think it's a very good idea to load up on them so that you're not worried about the wide receiver position. You pick some sleepers. So if your sleepers on the wide receiver position blossom, you'll be set there. And then you can use your extra running backs to either A, use as trade pieces, or B, just to cycle out on a week-to-week basis if you're setting all your other positions. So that's just a little tip of advice that I would give you. Running backs are so important in your redraft leagues. In your best ball leagues, they're not as important, but I think that that's fading a little bit now. And if you're watching this, you're probably watching it for advice on your redraft leagues. So just take that into consideration and try to draft one more running back than you actually would have had in the past. Some other running backs I think are worth getting. A.J. Dillon, very good handcuff. Tony Pollard, very good handcuff. Chase Edmonds. Leave CEH alone. Leave Antonio Gibson alone. Just do that for me, and leave Damian Harris alone as well. But that's my list. If you like the video, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so we can get into some FanDuel or DraftKings tournaments on our live streams, and you guys can just come and hang out with us while we're streaming and talk some shit. So throw your suggestions, your opinions, and your takes on my rankings here in the comments below. Thank you guys for all the support. Our channel's been doing very well, and we're not going to stop now. We've been getting a lot of traction, and we're going to continue to pump out the content as this year goes by. So thank you, everyone, once again. And yeah, appreciate it. Peace out.